Welcome to the Final Frontiers radio show, where we spotlight inspiring missionary endeavors around the globe. Stay tuned to hear how you can personally get involved helping the Lord's frontline soldiers effectively advance the gospel where it has never been preached before. Hello, this is Joshua Martin, and with me today I have Brother Solomon here from India, from the state of Karnataka. He lives in Hubli, and we have a lot of the Touch a Life program going on in the state of Karnataka, and probably over 100 different children that are being fed through feeding centers around your state.
Yes.
So
Yes.
There's a lot going on for Touch a Life. Does that keep you busy there?
Yes, quite busy, because every month we need to take care of 100 children. And addition to that, these 100 children are divided into several village feeding centers. And for example, if one village has 15 to 20 sponsored children from Touch a Life, addition to that, there will be another 10 to 20 children, non-sponsored children who join the feeding center. We cannot distract them. We cannot separate these kids because they also attend the church. But when they come to feeding center, we have to welcome them. The local church tries to mitigate the need. Mm-hmm. They try to meet the needs of the kids. They're poor of the poorest. Their mothers, especially single mothers, they have to work in the field, farm. Morning 6, by evening 6 to 7 she returns. By the time she comes and cooks, it's too late. So these feeding centers, the kid is made to write his homework, do his homework, then a nutritious meal is provided to him. By the time he go home, his mother comes and he can go to bed. Besides this, every Sunday they attend church and Sunday school. Mm-hmm. Daily evening they are taught about scriptures, they taught about songs, action songs, memory verse. Mm-hmm. So in this way the child is being nurtured in the scriptures.
That's one of the neat things about Touch a Life is we're not only try to give them one good hot meal a day, something nutritious, but also they're getting a Bible lesson when they're there, and they're actually hearing the Word of God each time that they come to eat at that feeding center. I have traveled in India, and where this brother lives here, the poverty is something that in America we can't comprehend. It's not something you see in America at all. You have to go to India to really understand it.
Mm-hmm. Through Touch a Life, we provide them sumptuous, nutritious food. Otherwise, the kids have to go to bed empty. Wages that the mothers bring home is very insufficient to take care of our kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can remember when I was there, in your own home that you lived in, you were also having an orphanage there.
Yes.
And so in the upper levels of your home, you had the church, and then you had a boys' dorm and you had a girls' dorm. And I got to spend at least a whole day with them, if not more. And it was wonderful to be with those kids. I loved those kids.
Yes. We have around 48 children. For the past 12 years, we've been running this home for the destitute children called Rebecca Children's Home. And these children are drawn from the temple. Their mothers are unwed young girls who have been once offered to the temples. We rescue them. We provide them education, shelter, food, and introduce them to the love of Christ. So soon after 10th grade, we expose them to vocational trainings. So after the vocational training, these girls and boys stand on their own feet, earning their own bread and butter. At the same time, support their mothers. And then in order to expand, there are so many hundreds children to be rescued. And we have built a dormitory for the boys. And we are in need to build one more dormitory for the girls, separate dormitory. And plus, we are constructing a community hall. It's almost done. The structure is already laid up. We need to do the flooring, the plumbing, and the electric. So kindly pray for this. And also, we are providing elementary English medium school. So our future plan is to rescue as many trafficked children, put them in our school, provide them a meal, provide them English medium school, so that tomorrow, the cycle of prostitution, the cycle of trafficking will never repeat in the lives of these children. These children will have English medium education plus Christian principles. They will be able to lead a dignified Christian life.
I remember coming out to your school and going from classroom to classroom and seeing the children. It was some of the younger ones at that time.
Yeah.
But I got to see the property, and I got to see the dorms that were being built. And so you've got the wash house that still needs to be built,
Yes.
right?
Right now we have under 20 children, but they do not have a washroom. So the washroom also is being constructed. It's in the process, but we need to complete. We need some more assistance. Kindly pray.
Is there any specific stories about a child?
Yes, we had one girl. She says that my mom has 5 husbands. And these 5 husbands, in the interval of 1 or 2 years, they come and go. And none of them have loved me. None of them have loved me. They and my mom would sit around the liquor, they enjoy, but they make me to do all errands. They never loved. Now I'm in the orphanage. I'm experiencing the love of Christ. One of the most urgent need that we are facing in India in our ministry is to educate the poor of the poor, untouchable Christians, the people from Hinduism, non-Christians who have come to Christ, who are leading Christian life. Their children's lives are in very pathetic condition. Since they are denotified as untouchables, their kids have no access to English medium school. Their kids have no access to other medical service. These kids are still at to work, accompany their parents to work in the farm. Thereby the kids end up as illiterates, ignorant, and in the end they end up as subservient laborers. Their Christian life is forgotten. So in order to rescue them, we need to put them in a hostel, in our English medium school. We want to educate these untouchable Christians, give them dignified Christian schooling, English medium, so that these children will also be able to compete with other children and lead a dignified life.
When you become a Christian there, oftentimes you become the lowest caste.
Yes, lowest as untouchable.
Right. That's a sad case for a
They
lot
hate
of them.
it. The landlords, the rich, high caste want to keep the kids as much as illiterate so that tomorrow, after the parents die, after the parents age, their kids will continue to work in the farm.
Right.
Slavery, bonded labor.
And you see
Yes.
a lot of that.
Yes.
You see slavery there.
Yes. Who are the victims? Especially those new generation Christian children are in risk. So we need to rescue them.
Is there special things they could do for the kids at the orphanage right now?
Immediate need is girls' dormitory has to be provided, and plus provide them school uniform. A sponsorship is needed. The most thing is we need more sponsors.
Sure. So through the Touch of Life program,
Yes,
if
through
they
the Touch of
sponsor,
Life.
if they can sponsor more children.
We
there.
request through Touch a Life to rescue as many children by sponsoring as many kids as you can.
Yes. And if they want to give special towards the dormitory or towards any of those buildings that are being put up
Yes.
right now.
Without infrastructure, we cannot educate this. We need classrooms, we need a recreation room, and we need a study room. And plus a chapel room is almost coming up in the form of community hall. Please pray for that.
Yes, I've seen the community hall that they're building. I have not seen it recently, but I saw how they were building this in the beginning, and I've seen pictures now. And so once that's up, it's going to be a great blessing. We can even bring national preachers in there,
Yes.
Timothy's, and it can also be something that could help fund itself because in the community, people could come and they could use that for a small fee. That would help you guys out too at the school.
Yes.
Once that's finished. So it's almost there.
The community hall is almost done. We need the flooring, the plumbing, the electrician, and the walls to be painted.
Right. If you want to see some of these children, if you want to see the orphanage, I did a video not that long ago, the debriefing for Karnataka India, and so we will have, if you go to finalfrontiers.world, you click on that radio microphone up there in the corner, you can actually go and see a link to that video. You could see the orphans, you can see some of that property there. So if you're interested in helping with that, let us know. Come and visit us on our website. Solomon, it's been great to have you today.
Yes. It's a privilege. And I'm so grateful, Josh, for allowing me to come and share what the Lord has laid on me. And thank you for encouraging me.
I could talk about India all day.
Yes.
I love India.
You've been such a blessing to all our pastors. You have come there, you have lived with us, and you have associated with them, gone with them. Oh, they still remember you.
Good.
They're praying for you.
Thank
yes.
you.
On the mission field, national church planters work in groups to be more effective, but often lack the everyday tools to make their efforts more productive. If you cannot afford to sponsor an individual preacher, you can still help with our team project, which stands for Together Effectively Advancing the Ministry. This pulls together smaller funds to help with things like printing literature, buying bicycles for preachers, providing emergency relief, and helping full-time church planters who are not yet supported. If you would like to join our team, visit finalfrontiers.world.
All right, this is Joshua Martin.
And Daniel Nelms.
And today we're going to talk about a country specifically. It's Bhutan. And back when I first heard about this country, most churches that I would go into, anywhere that we would talk about it, nobody had even heard of the word Bhutan. They thought maybe it was in Africa somewhere. And maybe that's the case for you today. Maybe you've never heard of this country. It's actually a Buddhist kingdom ruled by a king, and it is up in the Himalayas, and it's completely surrounded by a wall. So it's a very interesting place. I had the privilege of visiting it a couple of years ago, but this is totally Buddhist. So if you can picture India, and you go up to the northeasternmost point, you'll see Nepal that's on the left. You'll see Tibet that's basically north of there, and then it goes into China on the right, and India is directly south of that. Bangladesh is close by there, Burma's close by there, but Bhutan is just this little kingdom right there on the northeastern border of India. So that's what we want to talk about today. What have you heard about Bhutan? You've seen some of my videos.
Yeah, I've seen your videos. Now, I've met some people from northern India, and one thing the first thing I notice is they don't look anything like your typical Indian. Their mannerisms are different. Their facial structure is different. They look very much Asian as opposed to India. So that's the first thing that pops into my head when I think about that.
Up in that area, when you're on the borderlands there, they do look far more Asian. Buddhism is very strong in that place. And when I went there, I went with our group from Faith Baptist Church in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And my pastor there, Matt Stallman, was a part of this. He and I and Jason Dover, some of the people that you've heard about, we got this burden for this place because God was just knitting our hearts together saying, how can we get into this country? We've got to go find out what's going on there. There was no record of any churches, and there's no missionary work because you can't go in. It's illegal to do that. And some of the people over there, the word was then that if you preached, then it's 7 years in prison. So it was a serious matter. We had to get a government tour. You're not allowed to just go in the country. You have a government official with you the entire time, and you can set up little packages, and they make it somewhat expensive just to tour their country, just to see it. And so the government knows exactly where you are at all times. They know exactly what hotel you're going to be in. I set it up so we could be in rural villages and stay in some homes with people. But we spent the first part on the India side just trying to find somebody that was trying to get in, trying to find some good churches, some good institutes. And when we did that, we were able to meet some guys who had been imprisoned. They had been through some torture as well. And some of them, they're not allowed back in that country at all. They've been caught, and they cannot go back in. There's a lot of languages there, but they're using English quite a bit now.
Yeah,
they're teaching it in the
So
schools.
I guess it's mainly English, Dzongkha, and Nepali.
Nepali, yes. Buddhism is so heavy. The temples are all over the place. There's these huge fortresses that used to protect that country, and now they've become sort of the political arena plus the Buddhist temple. And I've been in a lot of Buddhist temples up through Bhutan on the trip that we took. I was able to even go to one of the holiest sites, which is the Tiger's Nest, way up in the mountains. That is very difficult to travel to, clear up into the mountains. You go into temples where you can feel the presence of evil. There was one particular Buddha idol that they said it talked to them at one point in history when they were bringing it up the mountain. It said, "Don't take me apart, leave me here, I will get to the site that I need to be." And when they came back the next day, the statue had miraculously gotten to the position that it was supposed to be, way up there. And you can feel the evil presence in some of those areas, but a lot of history there, a lot of really poor people, even nomadic people with the yak herds that go into the mountains. But a lot of the mountains you're not allowed to go on because of the belief of spirit deities that Buddhism came in and supposedly is in charge of now. Yeah. But still the spirit deities are there.
And I can vouch for that. The first time I ever went into a Buddhist temple, I was probably around 6 or 7 years old. This was actually before I even went to Thailand my first time. And my parents took me in to see one. This was I believe this was in Southern California. And the moment I crossed the threshold, I immediately felt different. It was an oppressive, kind of almost dirty feeling, as if you were covered in mud. And it felt as if maybe someone was sitting on my chest, and this was a child. So I can attest to that. I've been in many places in Southeast Asia where that type of feeling really comes out, and you know that there is evil in that place.
When I was there, God led us to one particular man, and we can't say his name. We'll just call him Jeffrey, okay? A kind of a code word for him. But he's more from Nagaland area and Manipur, and he came over, and his heart was just broken over Bhutan. And so he's from India, but he works there on one of the borders, and we were able to visit him and see the work that he was trying to start. But God let us visit a whole lot of different places, and we wanted to see who was working what. And there's a lot of people down there just preaching works salvation right now, that you have to be good before you can go to heaven, or you have to speak in tongues or you can't go to heaven, things like that. And so there's a lot of doctrinal issues in that area, but this man here was really solid. He was quiet, and he just kind of let us see what we were going to see. And by the end of it, we found out we were supposed to work with him. And God's knit our hearts with him ever since. I've been there 3 different times. I've been able to teach. Jason Dover has been there a couple times with me. And I was even able to be there at one point where I was able to baptize one of the men there right in the big river that comes between Bhutan and India. And that river, the waters come right out of the Himalayas. And so I got to meet a preacher there that has over 40-some converts, and they're meeting in Bhutan. But the way to reach this country right now that we're seeing is not through open evangelism, especially because you can't go in. You're watched like a hawk. You
Right.
cannot go anywhere, or you get them into a lot of trouble. And I've been in Bhutan even when we had one of the preachers come by night to a hotel and meet us.
And you
I've
can't
seen
carry
that.
anything in because you're searched at the border.
You do have to be somewhat careful. You can still have a Bible because they know that you're a Christian. They kind of expect that if you're coming into the country and you're white. But you can't proselytize. You can't speak about it.
You can't bring a
give
box full of
anything
tracts,
out. Right. You
for
cannot give out
example.
tracts, anything like that. But the way to reach them that we're seeing is the Institute, and that's what our man Jeffrey there, he has men that he can't do too many at a time because he's on a border region where there's spies that are watching, trying to shut him down. And they will come. It's
There's a
happened
heavily
before.
Muslim influence in that area, too.
There's also Muslim groups, and they're real close to Bangladesh in that area, pretty close. And so there's like a Muslim slum area that I was in. I tell the story of when some people were killed there that came down into that area, and the Muslim people actually got their children to rise up and stone them so that they couldn't blame anyone in the area because they said, well, the children helped, you know.
Sure.
And
They threw the stone, so you can't arrest them.
yeah. So you've got a lot of different groups in that border region, a lot. And yet you have Bhutanese spies wandering around looking for people that are having institutes. You have to really watch it. We can get them into trouble, and so when we're there, he's always saying, be cautious, be careful, don't be out on the streets all the time.
Sure.
He kind of wants to hide you when you're there, but he wants help. He wants you to help come and teach his men in the institute that he has there, and eventually send them back in. So we gave them a power pack, didn't we?
Yeah, Jeffrey has a power pack.
He is excited about using a power pack. He had his own screen, and he had his own system where he would try to hook up speakers and go out, and he would use that in villages and preach. I got to see that the first time I was there. That's something that he has a lot of use for. He loves using it, and he'll take his men out and practice in India, just giving out tracts, talking about the gospel, showing them how to baptize, start a church, all of this. And so the dream for some of those guys is just to get back into their own country and try to go back to their home villages or go out to some other village. It's dangerous for them. Their parents have completely rejected them.
But the good news is there are ways of getting the gospel into Bhutan.
And I do know a guy who has taken a backpack and gone cross-country and gone over the literal wall, and he will go up there with a backpack full of Bibles or tracts, and he's been caught before. But they do smuggle Bibles, and so this goes into our smuggling program. This is something we want to make as a point of prayer. Think about this country you've never thought of before. Find it on the map and pray for it. You'll be shocked when you see how small it is.
Yeah.
And think this is totally Buddhist. There's mountainous areas where it would take days and days and days just to get to a village. And the king has kept it completely, it's not modern by any means.
No radio, no cell phone reception.
In most places, you're not going to get any kind of reception unless you're close to one of the major cities. We would love to be able to get PowerPack Nano in there.
Yeah. We have a delivery system ready to go that we know we can get these devices in there without being caught at the border. I don't want to get into too many details about that for obvious reasons, but let's just say that there are ways of doing that.
So pray about this country.
And if you'd like to help us financially with this, you can do that by helping to fund the Timothy Project and also the Power Pack Project. You'll find information about that on our website.
Final Frontiers helps find support for a number of persecuted preachers in the Middle East. They likewise have a crucially important Bible smuggling program for those countries where God's word is not only inaccessible, but where it is sometimes punishable by death to even own a copy of the scriptures. If you desire to join our Bible smugglers team to help advance God's word to all people in all lands, by all means, visit finalfrontiers.world.
It is redundant to state that 100% of all unbelievers in the world do not have a relationship with Jesus. But did you know that 86% of all unbelievers also do not have a relationship with a Christian? Yet history has demonstrated that friendships and family relationships are the best and surest way to bring a person to Christ. Andrew brought his brother Simon Peter to meet Jesus. When Hellenic visitors in Jerusalem heard about our Lord raising Lazarus from the dead, they sought out not Christ himself, but some of his disciples and requested, "Sirs, we would see Jesus." When Saul encountered Jesus on the road to Damascus, the Holy Spirit sent Ananias to befriend him, heal him, and bring him to a saving knowledge of Christ. It was after a businesswoman named Lydia met Paul and Silas on the banks of a small river outside Philippi that she invited them to her house, became a believer, and her home became the first house church in Europe. While there, Paul and Silas were arrested and got to know a Philippian jailer and his family. More converts. Then there was Peter fellowshipping with and converting the entire household of Cornelius, a Roman centurion. The examples of friendship and family evangelism are endless. Tragically, there's only a slight chance of someone who does not know a believer ever coming to Christ. It happens, but it's rare. Yet there's every reason to expect that someone who does know a believer would come to Christ, unless the believer utterly fails in his opportunities to witness. The reason most unbelievers don't know a Christian is that they live in countries that are restricted or closed to missionary activity. But God always has a witness on hand. We call them national preachers, and we as a ministry exist to find them and support them. Wouldn't you like to help? I'm John Nelms. To learn more about missions, order a copy of my book, The Great Omission, on our website at finalfrontiers.world.
Your inquiries and comments are important to us. If you have any questions or perhaps subject matter you would like to have addressed on this show, please visit us at finalfrontiers.world.
So I'm here with Roy Harris, and he's a sponsor of some of our Touch of Life children. And it's been amazing for me to see how many people want to sponsor a child. It's like no matter how desperate finances are for us here, Americans are driven to help others who have so much less than we have around the world. So let me start by asking you, how long have you been sponsoring a child through Touch of Life?
Probably about 6 years, yeah.
Like many of our sponsors, you help more than one child. You said you started about 6 years ago, and then I think the next year you took on another one, was it?
We did, and also my daughter took on one herself.
Right.
That she wanted to sponsor.
Now, have you ever sponsored a child for another organization prior to this?
I have not. I think it was actually being able to go and see how the funds are used and being able to, meet some of the kids who are benefited from sponsorship. That was a big part of it. I think, with other You see the commercials on TV, the
Yes.
infomercials, and a lot of folks are kind of shy away from doing things where they aren't 100% sure how the funds are being distributed.
Right, so having that actual connection really kind of
Exactly.
cemented it for you.
It really did.
Now, let me ask you a little personal question. Are you rich?
I am not rich.
Okay, so what caused you to kind of help take the first child and then go on to that second child? It probably is a little bit of a strain on your budget there. It's not like an insignificant number.
I think it's the benefit that they receive for what some might consider a small amount. It pays for their uniforms, their books at school, and it gives them at least one hot meal every day.
Right.
Which might not seem like a lot to some folks, but for the small amount, it's a lot of benefit that I think they receive. And
Yes.
I don't know. I think just being able to see some of their faces and go in and visit some of the schools they're in.
Right.
Seeing the books that they have, the uniforms they have to wear. Those were the biggest reasons, I think.
So how often do you usually receive letters from your children down in Honduras?
Quite often, at least once a quarter, usually more than that. Yeah, and it's good to get those. A lot of times I'll get them at work and I'll print them out and take them at home and show them to the kids, show them to my wife, and say, hey, look, this is the child that we're sponsoring. They wrote us a letter, and they sent us a picture,
Right.
And it's good for them to be able to see that and have that personal connection and get a response from the child, knowing that they're receiving that benefit. It's really good.
So do you enjoy the little pictures that they often draw on their letters?
We do. And we've sponsored a 13-year-old boy before and down to a girl who was 3 years old.
Right.
And it's good to be able to hear their different experiences. I remember one of the boys that we were sponsored, he was 13 years old, and eventually he stopped coming to the feeding center. And we eventually found out that he had to drop out of school and go to work.
Right.
Because his father was sick. And so just being able to hear some of those stories, and, a lot of times we wish there was more that we could do.
Yes.
But we understand the circumstances, and, we can pray for them, and we can at least help them get the uniforms and at least one hot meal a day.
Yes, definitely. Now, every year around Christmas time, we usually send out an updated picture of every child, so that would include yours. How does seeing them grow year by year, how does that affect you and the family?
At work, I have a spreadsheet that I use to keep track of everybody's birthday.
Okay.
And it's, something that it helps me. I don't have the best memory in the world. I started adding in the birthdays of the children that we sponsor, and it just makes it more personal.
Yeah.
Being able to share that with the kids and with my kids at home, and being able to pray for them, and also provide them with, sometimes something special at Christmas time, which is good.
Is it good to see the pictures that you get when they receive the gifts?
It is. A lot of times we'll, send through the website. We can choose different things to give or to send to them, and one of those is a pre-filled stocking with
Right.
Lots of things in it, and seeing the picture of them with the stocking, and just it's a very personal connection, and it's good to see that they actually are receiving a lot of things that we've sent there.
Yes. It's always good to know that they've gotten it and it's not just kind of disappeared somewhere.
That's right.
Well, it makes us feel great having sponsors like you and your family not only care about the children, but show your love for them. This makes all the difference for children raised in poverty, often without parents. I hope the Lord allows you and your family to understand just how eternally significant your monthly sponsorship is, and we thank you.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to the Final Frontiers radio show, funded by sponsors like you. Thank you so much for joining us. Through the funding of national and native preachers, we endeavor to effectively advance the gospel where it has never been preached before. If you want more information, visit www.finalfrontiers.world. That's finalfrontiers.world.